Going to focus on the commas with locations and addresses bubble on NoRedInk. So we're going to start just kind of with the NoRedInk lesson that it shows here. So we do like to separate sections of the address to make it clearer and easier to read. Now, it's going to differ how you punctuate an address if it's on an envelope or if it is written in a straight line in a paper or something like that. So the format will be a little bit different depending on what you're doing. Today we're going to focus only on when it comes within a body of text or if you were writing it as a sentence, not as if you were addressing an envelope. Now, we put a comma in between the street address, however long it is, and the city. So on that first line there you can see Mike lives at 2485 Main Street, comma, San Francisco. So we always want to separate those two pieces of information. This is especially important because I'm sure many of you have noticed that lots of street names are also names of towns. For instance, I grew up on New York Avenue. If I had lived in New York Avenue, New York, or things like that, things could have gotten pretty confusing. So that's one of the reasons they separate those with commas. It just makes it a lot clearer that these are the different sections of the address. We don't worry about putting a comma between the words and numbers because it's pretty obvious that there's a difference when you have those visual numbers, like our 2485 Main Street. We can tell that this is the number, this is the street. There's no confusion there, but when you're looking at all of the words, it could get a bit more confusing, and that's what the comma helps us out with. We also will use a comma separating the city and the state. So here we have Casey just moved to Salt Lake City, Utah. Again, we want to separate those. The big difference is, again, we've got two different sets of words, so we want to make them really clear by having that comma to divide them. We do the same thing if you are using the city and a country. So here we're using Paris, France, since obviously France doesn't have states like we do. That's another way to reference that. We do not place a comma, however, between a city and the zip code. So here we have Bakersfield, comma, California, so our town, then our state, but between our state and our zip code, we do not separate. Again, because it's numbers, it's not necessary. It's clear and pretty easy for us to look at and be able to tell what's going on there. So we'll work through a couple of these together. Ron Weasley's karate studio is located at 28 Chestnut Way, Oakland, California, 94612. So let's break down each of the individual address parts. So we have the actual location number. Here we have Chestnut Way is our street name, Oakland is our city, California is our state, and here is our zip code. So we don't worry about in between the numbers, so we don't need a comma here, but we do want to separate between Chestnut Way and Oakland. We also want to separate Oakland and California, but because this is going from words to numbers, we do not need to separate those two. So this is a correctly formatted address. So we have our street number, street name, comma, city, comma, state, no comma, zip code. President Snow ate a spicy curry while traveling through Bangkok, Thailand. We have our city, Bangkok, and our country, Thailand. We do want to separate those with a comma. Since they're both words, we want to make sure that's really, really clear that they are two different things. Okay, here's a really good example of why we like having these extra commas. So here we have, on vacation in New York, New York, Gilderoy Lockhart saw 3 Broadway plays in one day. Because we have the city, New York, and the state, New York, without a comma, it's starting to look like you potentially have a typo. So we do want to separate those with a comma. We have an introductory clause here. That's what this comma is doing. So we don't need to worry about messing with it. We'll do one more. Harry Potter met his best friend in the bookstore at 87 Glen Drive, Cleveland, Ohio, 44101. So we've got street number, street, comma, city, comma, state, no comma, zip code. So this one's actually already correctly formatted for us and we don't need to do anything. I hope this was helpful for you when it comes to looking at how to use commas with locations. If you need more help, don't hesitate to reach out.